Good morning, everybody. Can you hear with no microphone? Good, great, thanks. So we're talking about this topic, as you probably know. I have here an interesting quote. If people learn this, it will implant forgetfulness in their hearts. They will cease to exercise memory because they rely on it, calling things to remembrance no longer from within themselves, but by means of external means. This is Plato talking about writing. So just to give you a little historical context, we're talking about the evolution of communication technology, and there have been several major milestones in the first probably being the invention of speaking, maybe around 1 million years ago, not exactly sure. They didn't have MP3 recorders, so we don't know. We know writing was invented around 5000 BC, which was a major revolution which Plato was writing about in horror, and we only know because somebody else wrote down what Plato had said. So well done, Plato. Fight the good fight. And printing, around 1400s, printing was invented, another major milestone. Electrical communication, telegraph, also things like radio in the 1800s started to come in. The World Wide Web was a major revolution in 1989. The smartphone, I think, is a major revolution. And most recently, around last year, this time last year, large language models have come in as the most recent. What may be alarming about these major milestones is they seem to be getting a bit closer together as time goes on.
I put it up.
Oh, thanks. So with machine translation, we've probably been teaching long enough to have seen kind of phases in the way that machine translation has been reacted to. First of all, we had a few freak cases that were like, oh, look at this, isn't it funny? My students written this, and it's very obviously machine translated. It's very obviously terrible. As it's kind of got better, we started thinking, well, how do we tell? How do we know whether our students have been using machine translation? And as it's gone on, as it's spread more and more, we're looking, how did we prevent this? How do we stop students from using it? And we've now gone past that, and it's how do we live with it? And this is very, very familiar to something else that's been happening over the past few years. It's maybe familiar, and it's now endemic, like influenza and Alzheimer's and income tax,
Death.
And this is specifically about machine translation, but it also applies to AI in general and how this. And I think we are at the stage where it's not how do we stop it, it's not how do we tell whether our students are using it, it's how do we live with it. So over to Gary.
Yeah, we've been struggling to understand how to use writing in education for about 2,500 years, and I have 25 minutes to talk about AI. And the topic is rather bigger, so the scope of this talk is going to be a little bit like not here is something that you can use ChatGPT for. That's not going to be the scope of this talk. Go to YouTube or ask ChatGPT itself, how do you use yourself, okay? So basically, some of the terminology, we're going to use AI as just that umbrella term, and ChatGPT is really a large language model, and I'll just kind of mix those two terms together. But if I'm talking about ChatGPT, I'm really talking about maybe large language models in general, okay? So, as I talked about, the scope is not going to be like, this is what you can use ChatGPT for now. Such as, I took a picture of my lawn the other day, and I said, how is the condition? And ChatGPT said to me, well, I can see the leaves, it's autumn. Well, I could be in Australia, for example. It's autumn, there are a couple of patches, this is pretty normal, done, okay? So now I know my lawn is fine. But of course, on a bigger scale, these things are already being used now to discover crop patterns to predict disease in African communities at the moment, or identify DNA sequences, such things. So this is a huge change, okay? So when we have to kind of think back, we talk about web came out in 89, but it really started to come out in 95. Maybe some of us remember those days, those of us who are old enough. And we thought of the internet as like, we approached the web like, oh yeah, you can find out the capital of Djibouti, which is Djibouti, and who knew that? Who wrote the first computer program? Or how to mix a tequila sunrise. These were the kind of things that we thought the web was useful for. It was a lookup tool, okay? But that's not the real story, is it? If you said in 1995, Amazon would change brick and mortar stores, it would change the landscape of cities, same with Airbnb, or social media would change the political discord, Arab Spring, for example. Nobody would be talking about that in 1995, or how dating apps have changed the way we love, I guess, or constrained users have better accessibility. That's a good thing, right? There's no font size. Apologies for it to being too small here today, okay? But if you were watching this on the web, you could resize it, yes? Banking, healthcare, these are the things that we didn't think of in 1995. Well, ChatGPT and LMSs are going to change the future in ways we have no idea about. Okay, and I've got 15 more minutes to try to tell you what that's going to be. I'll do my best. So in other words, we tend to view things through the lens of how things are now as opposed to how things will be. And that's a very important difference. Don't just look at what you can do now. Think, how is this going to impact society in the future? Oh, and by the way, every single image here is AI generated. That's why I look so good in the image, but not in real life. Okay, so let's just move on. Okay, so what is AI going to change, or what is ChatGPT going to change? It's going to change everything. Okay, that's the short answer. The long answer is, if we knew we would be on a beach in Tahiti, we would not be here now, right? Okay, so in other words, take a lot of what I say with a big, big qualifier of really we don't know. But I'm going to go through some things. So here's a question, maybe you can shout out your opinion about that. Can something that is constrained by the laws of physics and driven by electricity display creativity? Shout out an answer.
Yeah, because we are.
Yes, exactly. This is the human brain. Yes. Okay, it's driven by little electrical impulses, and everything is determined by the law of physics. Okay, so can an AI be creative?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Okay, so in other words, don't confuse consciousness with creativity. AIs totally can be creative. Okay, so I'm going to give the 5-minute explanation. This is a very quick explanation of how these things work. And this is going to be very, very quick, so by necessity. There we go. Once again, AI generated. Think of 3 mountains: Tateyama, Vesuvius, and Fuji. Which 2 are closest together? Right, pretty much everybody shouts out Tateyama and Fuji, right? Because your brain goes, close means distance, but close doesn't have to mean distance, right? There are other ways things can be close together. For example, eruptibility is... I was trying to think of a good word, and that was the best I could come up with. Apologies. Okay, eruptibility. Vesuvius and Fuji would be closer on that scale. Shinto, religious significance. Okay, so those are like 3 dimensions of closeness. And we could possibly try to draw, once again, AI generated. Okay, we could try to draw Fuji and Tateyama on that axis are the same, close. On that axis, Vesuvius and Fuji are eruptibility. And then on the depth axis, they are quite close on Shinto. So there's a 3-dimensional space that represents those 3 ideas. This is how LMSs work. LMS? Did I say LMS? Okay, I'll say ChatGPT from now on. Okay, so, but these things don't have 3 dimensions, they have hundreds of dimensions. Okay, so imagine that diagram drawn in 100 dimensions. That is how these models work, okay? And within that, there are also hundreds of other little things, each of those dimensions. So they put this, basically, they learn these spaces. They learn the space through training, okay? So, but tokens aren't just words. They're like the contours of your face, for example. This is going to be scary when they look at your face and they know how you feel just through, better than a human does. You know, you're going to go to court, well, perhaps, okay, and you're going to stand up and there's going to be a thing on your face and it will tell the court whether you're telling the truth or lying, this kind of thing, okay? So there are legal and ethical implications here. That's the thing that we need to look forward to, right? Okay, patterns in crop sequence of DNA, anything you can think of that can be measured, but often measured in a way we cannot see, is how large language models work, okay? So basically, when you give a large language model input, it produces output based on this appropriateness in its space. There's a little aside there. This is why comedians are the smartest people on earth, because they find that space which is the kind of dichotomy of the right thing and the wrong thing. And that's why we laugh, I guess, because of that surprise. So ChatGPT still can't be comedians, okay? That is something very human, okay? And so how does it work? Why does it work? We don't really know. So don't get this idea that these things are programmed through algorithms. Some people have this idea that there's some kind of algorithm. Then they'll only get better. This is just the beginning. They'll be 100, 200, 300 times more powerful. And whole conferences next year, start thinking in terms of how this conference is going to be next year, okay? Maybe I'll be a bot, okay? So basically, these things take months to train. Banks of computers, months and months and months, create this model. But once trained, like the human brain, it took 4 billion years of evolution to get to the stage it is now. But we can reproduce the human brain with alarming regularity, yes? Okay, same thing. Once you have it trained, then you have this model, this brain, and that can be run by a laptop. Okay, a fairly powerful laptop. So you could, if you were given ChatGPT, you could put it in your computer, okay? Now, there is a very, very significant point. This is hugely important. Okay, why is this important? Because every phone will have one of these things built in, okay? Now, please don't confuse this with, oh, I already have ChatGPT in my phone. Well, you don't. You have your phone connects to ChatGPT and then sends back information. That's a very different thing. In the future, maybe in a year or 2 years, every single phone will have its own ChatGPT built into it, okay? Which means now you're going up to the cloud, but then you'll be at every single app. Think of fitness apps. What do fitness apps do? At the moment, they access your health data. They access the location if you're running. They access mapping. That's all built into the phone. But then you add an AI in there, a brain in there, then the fitness app can become your fitness trainer, personalized, that you speak to, okay? And every single app will be able to access this for free because it's built into the phone. That's a big, I've played around with ChatGPT using their API like this, and you end up having conversations and you're sharing a lot of data, and that one conversation costs $20, okay? That is the kind of expense that it ends up with long conversations. Now, when you're in ChatGPT, it's so this kind of ability to have things for free, okay, and in every, so we will have relationships with machines, okay? And if you doubt, this is just from yesterday's. I don't know if you can hear this. Where's the mic? Oh yes, it's right there. Okay, I'll do my best to put this nice and loud. There's no sound system in here. Yeah, this is like the future technology, sound working. Okay, so this is just this is a project that myself and Jeanette Dennison are working on, and this is something, this is real, this is just a conversation, okay, and I apologize, I was just walking around the room recording her, so I apologize if I seem to be in the conversation. Okay, see if I can play it. Okay.
What kind of stress are you going through right now?
Oh, just the usual stuff, Doc. Life throwing curveballs like it's a championship game. Life's a circus, got bills filling up like a skyscraper. And, you know, the whole divorce thing's been a real joyride.
So you're divorced, and can you tell me more about your family situation? Do you live alone?
Yeah, got divorced a while back. 2 kids, a couple of rugrats who think I'm made of money. Living a solo life now, like a lone wolf. The apartment's as moldy as an old piece of bread, but it's age.
Okay, so that's a real interaction, and even we were laughing, we couldn't stop laughing, and that is like, you make a relationship with that. It's like it becomes like so that's not the end of it. Inside your phone, you will have all of these things. You can have the friend, the confidant, the instructor, the collaborator, the organizer, the sharer, whatever situation, and I'm sure this is going to happen within a couple of years. And if we're addicted to our phones now, just wait, okay, yes, you will be talking to this device as a person, okay, and you will start to, and that's already happened to me. I do programming, things that take me 3 weeks in the past, I can do in an hour. I've given my helper a personality and a name. She's called Ada, and Ada basically makes it such that things that used to take me a week of programming take me half an hour or an hour. And I apologize to her for helping me so much. I'm like, I'm really sorry, Ada, to bother you again. Can you, what is the difference between bind and something in this context? And we have discussions. It's not like she does my work for me. That's what I'm saying anyway. Okay. So, what does this mean? We will be having relationships with our phone, and every single thing that you can think of, every single personality will be built into your phone. So you're just like, okay, I'm having problems with my cat. My wife will be really upset if I say my wife. Okay, what do you suggest I do? Okay, so you talk, and this thing will give you life advice. And if you have children, especially young children, they will totally identify with this as a friend. Now, this is going to have, I don't know why the I is there. That's what happens when you change something right at the end. So what is this going to mean in education? I'm going to kind of cheat now, and I'm going to throw this out into the space. But one of the things in education is it's a bit like some Japanese universities that blocked YouTube and the internet back in the day. It was like, yeah, that's going to work, right? Okay, it's the same thing. You cannot stop your students from using this technology. Okay, you just can't. So if you're saying to your students, write a paragraph about this, and they can literally say, write a paragraph like, it will come out. So we have to have a different relationship, okay? And so we've got 5 minutes left, and we're basically condensing this into 5 minutes, okay? So I think the thing about education, of course, is it's productive struggle, isn't it? You struggle with things, you productively struggle. So basically, look towards if there are bots out there which are not telling you the answer, and they're trained to do that, but help with the process. Okay, so in other words, don't just say it, oh, here's the writing, produce it. It will kind of say, well, here are some ideas, and then you'll go back and say, can you critique this? So in other words, the bots and the models will start using, okay. We also have to think, this is a very important point, don't just think about your regular students, but think of disadvantaged students. I'm not going to, you can define disadvantage whatever way you want, okay, but these kind of students will get real benefits of these. One of the things that for me, I think, is just get back to our 3D world. This thing, young kids are just in a 2D world, right? Everything's 2 dimensions. Okay, get them playing with dough, okay, making things, okay. Assign tasks where GPT augments the end result. Instead of saying, write an article, say, well, write 7 articles and produce a monthly magazine or something. In other words, become an editor rather than the writer. So these are some of the things. And I just want to show you one example. Yeah, and will it wipe us out? Yeah, well, that's a whole discussion in itself, but it will definitely outperform us. There's a prompt though. Imagine Mozart was born into the Beatles, rewrite the whole Beatles catalogue. It will come back 5 minutes later with the whole Beatles catalogue as if Mozart was there, okay? So one of the things I think that will help will be the way bots basically interact and give feedback. And this is something, once again, myself and Jeanette were doing. I apologize for, I'm just walking around, just filming her. This is actually a real thing. Came out from the system we're developing.
Ace Drive. D. You did a good job navigating through the patient interview. One positive aspect is that you maintained a conversational tone, making the patient feel more at ease. However, you could try to delve a bit deeper into some aspects of the patient's history, especially when it comes to their reluctance to share private information. Building trust and addressing their concerns might reveal more relevant details. Now, considering the patient's case, potential diagnoses could include mu.
So that's now. Basically, Jeanette interviewed the chatbot, and then it evaluated her and said, this is where you could improve, okay? And we have other examples as you could have shown more empathy. That's a machine telling her you could have shown more empathy. And this is just the start, okay? So I think I'm going to finish there, leave it open, but do people have suggestions, ideas? How are you using? Ooh. This tells me I'm out of time, so yes. Sorry. No. Up here. Yes.
Thanks, Gary.
Adrian.
Released from talk about the university.
Yeah.
Thanks for another interesting talk. You talked a lot about the capabilities of AI.
Right.
I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the limitations that you see for the future of AI. I mean, I see in general AI ethical issues.
Yes. I mean, the whole conference next year is going to be about that, right? Or I hope you're all going to go to Jort Call, because Jort Call is on AI, so these issues will be brought up. I touched on the ethical issue with the facial recognition, and to be honest,
Limitations in education.
Oh, in education. Yeah, to be honest, I can't give you a good answer in like 30 seconds, because, but I feel that, I mean, kids are all, think of the effect that COVID had on kids. It kind of traumatized a number of children because they weren't able to, and we're kind of experimenting on our kids at the moment if we're using AI, yes. I mean, it's like, how does this work? How are they going? But we're going to use it anyway because we know they're going to use it. So I don't really know the answer to that question because it's like a very big topic, I guess. But, we had a...
Okay. Thank you very much. I've been very much inspired My question is, what do you think is going to be a difference between humans and then AI? And AI seem to be reaching almost singularity, as you have mentioned. So what makes us human? That's the first question. But the second question,
Do you have like
That's
2,500
singularity I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think my feeling is that anything that we can measure, they will be better at us. And anything we can't measure, we don't really understand. So they will probably be better at that as well.
So they can measure the contours of our face.
So I think that's a real challenge. It's a question. This comes back to what I feel education recently. We've been trying to be more useful in language education and teaching. We have to learn English because it's a tool. It's a communication tool. And it used to be that we studied language because it was good for us as a human to be able to understand literature and to be able to understand other people and other cultures. And I feel recently that's been pushed aside. And linguistics has become more powerful than literature because linguistics is more ostensibly more utilitarian and more measurable. And I think what we need to very, very quickly, we need to get the literature back as the main focus of language education and forget about linguistics. It's a waste of time, and AI can do that much better than we can. So we need to focus, and that's the question of humanities, literature. What is it to be human? And I think that's a very good question. And
Joel, I hope it will be answered at Joel. Yeah, you'll have to. We've already passed. We've been told to stop. But if you need more information.